Hello and welcome to the Coastal Edge Consulting channel. My name is Melissa Kettler, and today we're going to dive into imposter syndrome for leaders, why it hits at every level, and what you can do about it. And if you haven't experienced it yet, you just might in the future. So let's get started. Today, we're going to explore leadership, confidence, and one of the sneakiest obstacles in our path, imposter syndrome. Whether you're newly promoted, leading a large team, or managing your own creative business, this does apply to you. We'll cover how imposter syndrome shows up at any stage of leadership, the impact on decisions and confidence, whether it disproportionately affects women, how environment plays a role, especially psychological safety, plus practical steps you can use right now to recognize and overcome it. Before we get started, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and definitely leave me a comment. I'd love for you to come back and join me again for future videos. Did you know that roughly 70% of people will experience imposter-type feelings at some point in their lives? And among female executives, about 75% report having experienced imposter syndrome during their careers. I know I've had it, and many of my colleagues that I've worked with have also shared that they've experienced this as well. Let's start by defining what we're talking about. So what is imposter syndrome exactly, and why it matters for leaders? Imposter syndrome, or imposter phenomenon, is this persistent sense that you haven't earned your place, that your success is due to luck or timing, and that you'll be found out as a fraud, even though you have objective evidence of competence. And remember, this can apply to any stage of leadership. Early, mid, senior. It doesn't only hit new managers. It hits seasoned directors, C-suite executives, and even entrepreneurs. Because at each stage, the challenge shifts. You might doubt you deserve the promotion, or you might think, I should know more once you're at the top. So why does this matter for leaders? Well, it undermines confidence. Am I good enough? It also weakens decision-making. So, second-guessing yourself, maybe delaying the decision. It can also stunt risk-taking and innovation. For example, if I make a mistake, everyone will know I don't belong. This can lead to overcompensation. It can also lead to burnout, or working twice as hard to hide the doubt. And it definitely trickles to the team. If you are uncertain, your team senses it. So here's a real-life example. I once worked with a director who had one of the best track records in her division. Yet, every time senior leadership asked, "What's next?" she froze. She worried that they'd think she didn't know what she was doing. The irony? Her hesitation slowed rollout of an important initiative. So how common is this among leaders? And does it affect genders differently? Most people will experience imposter-type thoughts at some point in their lives. Women consistently scored higher on imposter measures than men, though the gap was moderate. So yes, there's strong evidence that women report it more frequently. But research also tells us it's not only a women's issue. Some newer studies argue the gender gap is smaller than commonly assumed, and that the environment plays a huge role. In short, if you're a male leader, you're not exempt. If you're a female leader, you may need to be especially aware of how systemic factors amplify the doubt. So whether you see yourself as part of the statistics or not, the key is this. If you are feeling like a fraud, you are far more normal than you might think, and it is not a weakness, it's a signal. Now let's zoom in on how imposter feelings actually play out in leadership behavior, particularly around confidence and decision-making. When leaders experience imposter thoughts, they often struggle to internalize their success, which means they don't feel the confidence their role requires. So you might find yourself saying things like, if I show I don't know, they'll think I don't belong. Or, I must know it all before I step in. Maybe I just got lucky. So these internal dialogues reduce the margin for error and increase self-doubt. And here's how imposter syndrome affects decision-making. Here are the typical patterns we might see. Over-preparation or paralysis. You delay decisions, presentations until everything is just perfect. There's also risk aversion. You avoid big opportunities or bold moves because you just fear exposure. There's this excessive seeking of validation. You lean too heavily on feedback rather than just trusting your intuition, which really slows things down. You may also notice difficulty delegating or trusting your team. You overcompensate by doing too much yourself to prove your legitimacy. And of course, that will lead to burnout because you're constantly operating at a heightened state, trying to prove yourself. You just run out of steam. The research shows that imposter phenomenon is associated with emotional exhaustion and lower job satisfaction. So for leaders, that means your team may feel less agile. Innovation may stall and you may miss out on growth moves simply because you feel you shouldn't. So take a moment and think of a time when you hesitated when you think you should have acted. Did you worry about looking incompetent if the outcome wasn't perfect? Because that's the imposter voice showing up. For leaders, it's not just personal, it becomes the culture you set. And another piece of the puzzle, does the climate you lead in or work in make imposter syndrome more likely? The short answer, yes. Leadership doesn't happen in a vacuum. The environment really does matter. One of the strongest pieces of research in leadership culture is the concept of psychological safety. We've talked about this before. In short, this is the level at which people believe they can speak up, make mistakes, ask questions without being punished or humiliated. People need to feel safe to speak up. In low psychological safety environments, the pressure to look right all the time creates fertile ground for imposter thoughts. So what are the implications for leaders and teams? If you're leading, your tone matters. If you're a new leader, the team and culture you enter matter. The same leader in one culture may feel confident, but in another culture may feel deep self-doubt. So here's some signs you may be in a lower safety environment. So mistakes might equal blame rather than learning. Maybe there's a lack of diversity or inclusion. People feel other. Silence in meetings when people don't speak up. If you see any of these, you are more likely to experience or reinforce imposter feelings. The good news is, you can influence the environment you operate in. Before overcoming something, you've really got to spot it. Maybe you have difficulty accepting praise or complimenting yourself. You feel like you're the only one who lacks the secret knowledge everyone else has. Now, if you nodded at any of those things, you're in good company. You're definitely not alone. So the first step you can take is reframe your narrative. Just remind yourself, I earned this role. Keep a success portfolio if that helps. Some concrete evidence of wins, compliments, projects completed. Revisit it when your inner voice says, I'm just not good enough. Normalize the feeling and share it. Talk candidly with a peer, a mentor, a coach. If you share, I'm feeling like I don't belong, remember that is more normal than you think. Sometimes you'll discover your role model felt the same way. Sharing deflates the power of this feeling. Replace I should know it all with that learner mindset, especially for leaders. No one knows everything. Acknowledging the gaps sets a tone of authenticity. You can say, here's what I don't yet know. Let's learn together. So set some realistic standards and celebrate progress. Just combat perfectionism. Ask yourself, what is good enough? Celebrate when you lead a team well, even if not perfectly. None of us are perfect. Have some routine check-ins with yourself. So you can ask yourself, monthly, what do I doubt? What evidence shows that I'm capable? What did I learn rather than what did I win? So just to sum it up, imposter syndrome doesn't only affect new or aspiring leaders. It can appear at any level at any time in your career. It generally will impact confidence, decisions, and team performance. Women tend to report it more often, although men are not immune. And the environment, especially psychological safety, plays a huge role. But the good news, you can recognize it and shift your thinking, your behavior, and you can influence the culture. If you're leading, you don't have to wait until you feel 100% ready. When you accept that feeling of, I don't know, as part of growth, you become a more authentic and resilient leader. And that's especially relevant in today's future of work world. So that's all about imposter syndrome for today. A friendly reminder, please drop me a comment, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and briefly share one moment when you felt like an imposter as a leader. And if you're interested in more tools and techniques, come on back and join me for future videos or go back and watch some of my previous videos. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, keep on striving. Now, go lead with your full creative self. You belong, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.